Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus and I welcome you to the UFO entity ENIGMA, where today we'll be exploring the Olympians as celestial beings and sharing information on what that means to us and how it translates into the mythology that has survived for thousands of years. And I will now go to our panelists, experts, all of them in things metaphysical and psychic, and they will tell us a little bit about themselves. We'll start with Michael Kopp.
Yes, I'm Michael Koff. I am a metaphysical paranormal investigator. I grew up in the metaphysics by choice, and I am happy to be here and happy to be amongst you all.
Thank you for being here. Then we have Sue.
I am Sue McClure, and I'm a meditation specialist, and I help people work through the shadows. Still practicing out in St. Louis, Missouri, and had a lot of different experience. So, yeah, thank you so
Thank you
much for
very
letting me
much.
be here.
And thank you for being here, Sue. Then we have Setna of Khemet.
Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday night. I am Setna Kamweset. I am a Kemetic high priest. I'm also a metaphysical as well as paranormal expert. Like everyone else here, I'm an author. And I appear regularly on many of these panels, and I'm delighted to be here tonight.
Thank you very much, Setna, and we will benefit from your wisdom and your humor. I look forward to hearing more from you. Then we move to Paul. Greetings, Paul.
Greetings, Sir Hercules. Yes, my name is Paul Dale Roberts, and I do a lot of writing. I write for Costa Rica Times, Phenomena Magazine over in England, Paranormal Underground Magazine, Unex Magazine, and there's another magazine. Outer Limits Magazine. So, and then also too, I do some podcasting on Hercules Invictus Productions. And I got a show tomorrow with Maria Martinez at 4:30 p.m. And that's all things paranormal. And then on the 19th, Paul's Pop Culture. And we got a special guest on the 19th. We have a DC Comics historian. So sharpen up. Everybody who's going to be involved in this, sharpen up on your DC comics like Green Lantern, Batman, Superman, and don't screw up and say Spider-Man. That's Marvel. Anyway, that's who I am.
Thank you very much, sir. And Paul is also a living comic book figure, as am I, but not the extent that Paul is. And we explore that in the show, so we'll leave it there. But know that you have a living legend among you. You have actually another living legend among you, Alan Greenfield, who's very well known in certain circles. Greetings, Alan, who sang the magic song of Mickey Mouse to draw attention to our podcast tonight. How are you doing? And
through the years, we'll all be friends wherever we shall be. That's from the Mickey Mouse song. Unfortunately, I remember jingles from the 1940s. I mean, it's just useless information. But I am Alan Greenfield. I have written many books, mostly on the occult, flying saucers, and how the two are connected.
And Alan also has a show starting very soon, and we have to work out a title for it and all sorts of other things, but I'm looking forward to that. Premiering Alan is a very original and unique individual, and I'm sure his show will reflect that, as do all his appearances on the panels.
2 weeks from today, the grand premiere, right?
Yes, sir. Today we're going to basically go over a topic that we've gone over before, and I think some of you were at least one of the other times over the years when we've discussed this, but the Olympian gods and their celestial nature. As everyone knows, the days of the week are reflections of the names of the planets, and the names of the planets, for us at least, come from the Anglo-Saxon adaptations of the Greco-Roman pantheon. So Sunday is the day of the sun, and there are many solar avatars. Monday is the day of the moon, and there are many lunar avatars. Tuesday is the day of Tyr, who's the Anglo-Saxon god of war, like the Norse Tyr, the Greek Ares, and the Roman Mars. Wednesday is Woden's day, and it's also the day of Hermes, and he's known to the Yasuvis as Hermes Trismegistus and Mercury. And Thursdays is the day of Thor, which translates into Zeus and Jupiter. Friday is Freya's day or Frigga's day, depending on who you talk to. And that is Aphrodite or Venus, the goddess of love. And Saturday is Saturn's day. And Saturday is the god of the Old Testament, who's wrathful and jealous. Is also known as Kronos to the Greeks. So we have the gods there in the celestial aspects, and there's one way of approaching through the planet, and we're going to be exploring those in future programs. But now we have the theory of ancient aliens or ancient astronauts, as they were once called, and they've gotten a lot of attention if you look at them through that lens. So before we start on these other programs and several series, I want to see where my experts are in their thinking and what their beliefs happen to be, so that we could plan the journey and cover a lot of interesting areas for not only ourselves, but for you, the listening. So we'll go back to Michael Koff. Michael, what is your wisdom about the Olympian gods and the celestial nature?
The thing I find interesting about the Olympian gods is they start out by being mightier than humans, and like they're going to dictate to the humans what they can and cannot do until Prometheus arrives, and then Prometheus kind of makes it to where they kind of lose some of their arrogance.
Uh-oh.
Oops.
Did we lose them?
I
have
might have lost him. He was having problems with his electricity, and he said that he jury-rigged the system.
Oh, there he is. There he is.
That was the strangest thing. My screen just went down and then reopened, and I didn't touch a thing.
Maybe the gods want to show they're listening. And,
or don't want to listen.
Yeah.
I think they did big time.
But what I was gonna say is they turn to kind of working with the humans and realizing that the belief in the humans was where their existence lies, because if nobody believes in you, then do you really exist, is their mantra. And so they realized they can't push us around. They kind of need us, so they kind of, mellowed a little bit. But celestial wise, I think the most interesting aspect of the Olympian gods is the fact that they usurped the power from the Titans, and then were concerned the humans were going to do it to them. So I think that's where a lot of their fears and why they suppressed a lot of stuff to humanity was because they were afraid the humans were going to rise up and do what they did to the Titans.
hey, thank you very much. That is certainly an area of interpretation that others have offered. And what you just said reinforces that. So that's one perspective we have. Okay. Sue, how about you?
Well, from what I was taught, even I took little classes from Facebook classes that you can take about different gods, but this was a very, very long time ago. I was studying on different aspects between what Aphrodite was capable of doing, and the temples and things like that. And I was studying how they had some of them were very possessive about the temples and how the humans treated them. and some of them were very serious about it. We're talking about that if you had the fruit bowl put together in the wrong order or the wrong way, you were gonna pay the heck out of it. And then the others were very nice and very generous, and it just depends on the personality of how they perceived humans. Some of them actually, in spite of, I think the ones that, in my opinion, that were treated like dirt up there were the ones that were nicer to humans. And others that weren't treated well were actually took it out on the humans. So it just depends.
Okay, so that's basically the Hellenic Reconstructionist type of perspective.
Yeah.
But and it's very common, and there is echoes of it as there is with what Michael shared in the mythology. So thank you very much.
Okay.
Setna of Khemet, we've had this conversation many times on the air.
Well, today's Sunday, and we know that that's ruled by Apollo, and also in my traditions, Ra and Horus. But we also know that Apollo rides across the sun across the sky, with pulling the sun behind him, they say, in a chariot of fire. And as Eric von Däniken said too, the chariots of fire, you know. So we know that somewhere along the line that could be a ancient alien. Ra and Horus also ride in an Egyptian barge, which has the sun attached, and it pulls the sun in the same way. So we've got different cultures, and it's also true in some of the Aztec and Inca cultures that you have a deity bringing the sun to the earth, which is interesting that they all feel that way. But the Olympian gods, I think that, as Sue said and as Michael said, they have two natures. One is very beneficent and loving. The other one is really nasty. For instance, Athena at her temple, her arch nemesis, Poseidon, was very attracted to a young woman whose name was Medusa. And they had sex on the floor of her altar, of her temple. She was so angry she turned the woman's long, beautiful ringlets in her hair into snakes. And so that no man could ever look at her again, her gaze became, well, she really learned how to get people stoned, I'll put it that way. You know? She was the first stoner,
Or
I'm telling
stiff.
you.
Many
She
men
really
stiff.
knew how to rock. The woman knew how to rock it.
To be
But
fair,
other things happened.
priestess of Athena.
Yeah, she was, and that's why she did that. She was punishing her.
And
We
they
know that.
love on Athena's altar. So
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I think Athena also, they say Venus, but it's also Athena, was great at weaving, amazing weaver. And this woman, again, another priestess of Athena, said, "Oh, I'm a better weaver than Athena." And they had this terrible conflicts and contest. And Athena was about to lose. She was furious. Don't tell your wife. And she turned her into a spider, an arachnid. An arachnid was her name. So we get the name arachnid from this poor girl who became a spider. And I wonder if she went up and down the water spout. I always wondered about that. I knew Alan was going to get into that. But there's a lot of other good things. We have Prometheus, who brought us fire, and that was really cool. Now, could that be laser? Could the ancient aliens? Could he have been an ancient alien? Could he have brought the fire, meaning not only fire, physical, the element of fire, but knowledge? We're not sure. So there's a bunch of a bunch of questions that the Olympian gods have brought to us and then Zeus. Zeus is thunder and lightning and things. So in my traditions, thunder and lightning and all that goes to Set, who is sometimes a very nasty god. And Zeus has a temper also, does he not, Hercules?
all the gods have tempers.
But I mean a really, really, really rough temper. I mean, Set tore his brother into 14 pieces. You know, it was that Patsy Cline song, I Fall to Pieces. They were all over Egypt, a real mess. But also, Zeus and Thor in that way. Thor is a god of thunder and lightning, too, and has long hair and is very handsome. And Zeus is supposed to be the most handsome deity in the universe. So we see that, and there's all these carryovers. And I like that. But we know that they are in a plane that's not seen by humanity. So is that some kind of a portal that they can come and go up, which is supposed to be on Mount Olympus or above Mount Olympus? Isn't that true? Hercules, right above the mountain. Somewhere there's clouds because the mountain's high and there are clouds on top of it. But they say that these beings come from somewhere around or above Mount Olympus. So is that some kind of psychic, like Stargate or some kind of portal where they can come in and out of the Earth and atmosphere, or the Earth is a physical zone, the material plane?
There were beliefs at the time that the gods lived on top of mountains, and there's an optical distortion that happens around Olympus where the mountain from the ground looks out of base. So that gave birth to a lot of the stories. And there seem to be places on the earth, and you can call them stargates, you can call them portals, where the gods can more freely come and go. The Greek tree of worlds is not as distinct as the Norse one or the Hebraic one, for instance, where they're distinct and separate. In the Greek universe, they all blend together. You could easily get from one to the other without feeling that you're changing worlds. So all the worlds are connected and woven together. Their fates are one.
Would you think it would be something like a Bermuda Triangle?
It could be.
Well, that's some kind of a portal, they say.
But they were able to navigate those portals. Like in a lot of the lore that survived us, they knew the river below the ocean, which is the currents. So there were not only of surface currents and conditions, but deeper currents and conditions. So that sailing the ocean was sailing the river ocean if they were using the tides. And I'm sure they knew of the ethers and other energies that intersect with their own planet on different wavelengths. And that's what they use for navigation, like UFO ley lines and energy lines and things like that.
But there's so much that goes on. Like I was thinking of Lucilla and Charybdis, and what happened there. And sometimes they were in the physical plane, and when they were, they did terrible things. And then other times they were in the etheric plane,
Right.
and they were okay, and people were safe.
Stela literally means bitch.
Oh boy.
That was the name among the Greeks, Stela the bitch. And it still means a female dog.
That's terrible because it's a really cool cosmetic.
Thank you, Setna and Paul. What do your studies tell you about the Olympians?
No, it's very interesting on what Michael Waterman was saying about the mountains being mystical, or the gods maybe living up there. Because you look at it, almost every mountain, especially the tall mountains all around the world, there's something mystical about it. And there's always stories about gods being on those mountains. For example, you have Mount Denali over in Alaska, which was at one time Mount McKinley. And inside that mountain, people are saying that there is a dark black pyramid that is very mystical. The military is supposed to be down there making sure that no civilians like us go into that mountain. Mount Everest, mystical. The hidden city of Shambhala, Yeti is seen out there. There's something going on over there. Mount Shasta, the last of the Lemurians supposedly live in Mount Shasta. I actually think that the universe, I think that Earth are living things. And the universe itself, with these primordial gods, these elemental forces, are all part of the universe. And ancient man was visited by a very advanced civilization. It could be extraterrestrial, or it could be terrestrial. And they are part of the universe. They came and they told us different things, and we built gods over them, like chaos. It's this void where all existence sprang. It's sort of like a black hole, but you turn it around, you have a white hole, and things are being created. So it's going into a black hole, being destroyed, and going out a white hole, recreated, reinvented, brand new. So chaos is God. They could be talking about a black hole, or they could even talk about it could be the universe telling us about the Big Bang. Gaia, uh, part of the earth, a living thing. Tartarus from the underworld. We always hear things about the underworld. Hell is down there, or Hades is down there. But there is probably something down there, and ancient people were trying to describe it. Eros, sexual desire, love, procreation. It's all these different stories probably given to us, or ancient people trying to understand what they're seeing. And the universe, if it's a living universe, all these gods are being created in that living universe. And that's my thoughts on it.
Thank you very much for your thoughts on it. And yes, a lot of these locations like chaos and the underworld are very well mapped out in Greek mythology and occultism. And that counters the objection many people have against polytheists, is that they stole their afterworlds from other people, when the opposite is actually true. The Greek underworld has rivers, it has land masses, it has nations, it has systems of law and punishment, it has systems of ghosts who can't afford to cross the river. So we're going to be exploring all that in the days ahead, different planes and planets.
And Hercules, can I just mention one thing?
Sure.
With Michael Waterman, he was asking if Zeus had a temper. Tell Michael that I saw the movie Thor: Love and Thunder, and it looked like Zeus had a temper.
Oh, I know he does. Believe me. He's one of my although I do Egyptian things, he's one of my father deities as well.
Thor: Love and Thunder gives us something that, like I haven't seen any movies before. The Empyrean, which is a very obscure astral place in Greek metaphysics, which is kind of like the heaven of the gods.
Mm.
And chaos is unlimited potential, as well as being what we normally think of as a term. So it's a place rich with possibilities. And that was true in Greek mythology. In Greek mythology, there were animations. And if you look at Gnosticism, you have like the aeons and the archons and so forth. The Greek generations of deities are also incarnational. Each one is a little bit less cosmically than the one before it. So you have chaos and earth and all that being like on that in the early manifestations. And then the Titans bridged the heavens and the earth, and the Olympians bridged humanity with the divine. And somebody mentioned here that mankind was now in a place of strength the gods. That too is part of the process, but it's all generational. One generation replaces another, and the story moves on and unfolds. Alan, how about you? What do you think about these matters?
Well, my homework for this particular program, which I did at like 4 o'clock this morning, which might explain a great deal, was the best film version of the Greek gods ever. No, we're not talking about the current politically correct version of the Odyssey, which God help us. We're talking about Jason and the Argonauts. a tour de force for Ray Harryhausen for
And
the
then,
effects, but it shows the current version of the Odyssey is boulderized away from the gods pretty much altogether. They're mentioned, but they never show up, which I don't think that's what uh, the Odyssey or the Iliad uh, are represented as. However, Jason and the Argonauts, they appear uh, continuously throughout, and they even bounce back and forth from the gods on Olympus and the Jason and the Argonauts who are trying to reach Colchis and steal the golden fleece, which was very honorable in that society. However, the controversy about the current film and its accuracy to Homer has brought out some very interesting things. The argument is, well, Homer, if he existed as an individual rather than as a group of poets or whatever, which I happen to think he did, was several hundred years after the Trojan War. So whatever he knew was through the filter of the so-called Greek Dark Ages, which really means the breakdown of Mycenaean civilization, like every other civilization in the Eastern Mediterranean. But what we have from the Mycenaeans, known only through the work of archaeologists in the past century, is their records, which are mostly very mundane things like how many sheep came into Mycenae or, whatever. But there are lists of donations to the temples of the gods. And the interesting thing is someone in the archaeological community has compiled a list of the names of the gods. Not much more is known about them except what sacrifices came their way. But there is a large list of names that did not survive into classical Greek civilization during the great flowering of the golden age of Greece, as it is sometimes known. But Zeus and Hera and several of the other gods and goddesses are mentioned repeatedly in Mycenaean texts, which go back to the probably to the early Bronze Age, which is 1,000 years before most of what we think of as Greek mythology. So I think that these are extremely ancient names for what shows up in all of the mythologies, so-called, of the world. You find repeatedly, most easily known in the Indo-European gods as 12 gods. That shows up in Norse myth, in Germanic myth, which is related, in Greek mythos, Roman mythos, which, by the way, I don't think is identical to the Greek. It's not just a transposition from Zeus to Jupiter. That's kind of complicated, and there may have been Eastern Mediterranean ideas about Jupiter and Sol Invictus that go back before even any kind of encounter with the Greeks. But we're talking, I think, about the same 12 deities, which, by the way, a secular reading of the biblical text, there is always the God of the Bible and his royal court. which is translated as angels or whatever, but who are in fact 12 sub-deities under the kingship of being Jewish. I'm not supposed to say the name, but the one spelled Yod He Vav He, and mistranslated as Jehovah in King James. You get the same legends in Inca and pre-Inca lore, in Aztec lore, which is pretty late, but in Mayan lore, which goes back to classical antiquity. And unless you postulate, as I sometimes do, that in some early, long ago time, perhaps before the Younger Dryas, which is 12,000 years ago, roughly speaking, there was a common perception of the gods that came forward according to local languages in various ways of the same 12 beings. So you have, since the Sumerians and the Babylonians and even the Assyrians use what's called a base 60 system. We use a base 10 system mostly. Actually, our clocks are still base 60, thus 60 minutes in an hour, 60 seconds in a minute, time divided into 12 hours and 12 hours, which is 24, which is divisible. I mean, you can go on and on with that, but we continue to use the time sequence that we inherited from Sumer, which God alone knows how far back that may actually go. Now, end of paragraph. After all, I'm the expert because I watched Jason and the Argonauts 12 hours ago. And the interesting thing is it puts into the mouth of Zeus. And I remember this from seeing the movie when it was new. Hera says to Zeus, your interest in, I'm paraphrasing here, your interest in what the humans do is because you know that when they no longer believe in you, we will cease to exist. And I thought there is wisdom in that notion. It's not original to the movie, but it nevertheless is important. End of my rant on the universality of the gods of antiquity. And on to another point. Of course, people know that I am well, I knew Richard Shaver, but I'm kind of a fan of the Shaver Palmer, so-called Shaver mystery. And that draws heavily on mythology and specifically Greek mythology. That doesn't mean that it's not literally true. It means that he was, in a sense, in touch with the underworld heirs to ancient civilizations, including those which had left the earth for reasons that are, if we ever do a thing on Shaver, I'll go on about it. But they left, and they left in charge these beings who over the generations became degenerate, detrimental row, which in Shaverian language was detrimental robots being not mechanical, but degenerate human beings, but left with these mechs, machines that they could operate from under the earth. He was not an advocate of a hollow world, but he was an advocate of there being underground places where that were left by the Titans and the Atlans. And that's where they were. Okay, that's an interesting thing, but we have all of these modern reports of people who go, and by modern, I mean in the last 200 years, roughly speaking, maybe 300, people who go into a cave or cavern or mine shaft and encounter these beings from under the earth who are descended from the Titans and Atlans and perhaps the Nortons the Nortans, who never come near any stars because the radiation from stars ages them. Otherwise, they are immortal. So the longer you stay out of the radiation, the larger you get physically. The common denominator is that these portals to these places, Shaver thought they were literally holes in the ground. However, that led to these cities. However, my interpretation has been for many years that caves, mountains, and the places where ley lines converge, the telluric convergence points all over the earth, are where the portals, at least the natural ones, exist, and where one can, without any magic or hoodoo, travel between worlds. Mostly, although there are stories of human beings that have gone and come back, and some who have gone and never come back, they go up a particular mountain, whether it's Olympus or Sinai or Seir is more likely.
Or Hermon and the ancients.
There's a host of them, and and also at points where ancient temples were built at the convergence of ley lines, thus leading to the discovery of the old straight track, which was essentially in pagan times, paleo-pagan times, were pilgrimage roads. They always led to a mountain or a cave. Some of them are still active, like the Purgatory of St. Patrick in Ireland today. Catholicism in Ireland has fallen into some disrepute, but some disrepute doesn't mean there aren't several million followers, and many people still go on an annual pilgrimage to the Purgatory of St. Patrick. So it's still there, and people still see the Purgatorio, the what they call the interim between heaven and hell. By the way, the Norse name for the goddess of the underworld is Hel, H-E-L. I don't know what it would be in, runic, but it's pronounced Hel, but without the extra L on it. Hebrew Sheol and various other names. And the translation into Greek, Hades, doesn't quite carry the same connotations, but it's still the place where the god of the underworld, the recently demoted planet Pluto, is angry about this. But Hades is the name of the god and the name of the place. So actually, previous versions of the Odyssey, I think the one with Kirk Douglas, which was spaghetti Greek mythology, I guess. Well, I mean, it was, it wasn't a Western, but it definitely a lot of secondary characters were speaking Italian, and I've seen the Italian version of it, and I know how the sound effects were done by this one guy who did them all. He would hit, if it was a sound of swords, he'd take two pieces of metal, and when the swords struck each other, he would go, boom, bah, boom, and it sounded, very authentic. And people spoke their own languages. So Kirk Douglas, who spoke no Italian, I think he spoke Yiddish and English, would say, "Oh, great God," and the Hera figure would go, "Mahala," which is actually Hawaiian for "What are you doing here, white guy?" So it's interesting to see the uncut originals. But I guess my point is a lot of these things are accurately depicted in the popular media. But if you get down to the nitty gritty of what was found in Messina and on Crete, which was first Minoan and then Mycenaean after the conquest, and then ruled by barbarians. I heard an interesting interpretation of the word barbarians. It said, to the Greeks, the people from the north spoke Babel. They went, all what they heard was not the language of I guess, the Balkans, but they heard they're just talking Babel, blah, 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 blah. So they called them the Babel barbarians.
That's true.
And rightly so. If you want to see how real these beings are and where their origin is, go to the appropriate mountains where they say their home is, whether that's Asgard or Olympus. You're not going to find it on an unceremonious mountain, but in mountains, caves, and even mines that happen to have been dug in places that happen to have a portal to what I call otherwhere, or go to the convergence of ley lines where you will find in the basement a intact, in some cases, intact temple of Mithra, and Mithra was originally a Persian, yes, a Parsi god, and became, as is often the case, a Roman cult mostly for the military.
Praetorian Guard, yes.
Yeah, I wrote about that many years ago, and
I know.
it was somewhat controversial. But on top of that is a church, and on top of the church is a cathedral. And for some reason, they weren't all destroyed or torn down. They were just left in the basement. And you can find those, and it indicates, I don't know what's under the Temple of Mithra, but if you look at the places where ley lines have been sketched in Britain, they're called the Old Straight Track, or they were. Actually, they still are in some lore.
There's supposed to be a ley line by Mount Shasta. And
there is.
Yeah.
Several that cross at Mount Shasta. And that's what they say, the Lemurian survival. I'm not so sure that Lemuria doesn't have an entrance or portal there. And some of the people who profess profound mystical experiences, including some disreputable people, that doesn't mean the story is untrue, found and conferred with the Comte de Saint-Germain, an immortal being, or at least seen as immortal, although I think if you go through certain portals, you go outside of time, because there are all kinds of legends that, like the Venusberg in Germany, if you go inside with Aphrodite or Venus, if you come out, it may be 100 years later, although you were only there for one or two orgies with the goddess and her nereids and dyads and other ads. Am I making any sense here at all?
Yes,
I'm so
you're actually taking the direction where I plan to go with this and several other podcasts. So go right ahead.
okay. No, that basically is the 2 points that I made. That I think the interaction between the gods and humans is pretty much as depicted in Jason and the Argonauts, and definitely well depicted in Homer's Odyssey and Homer's Iliad, the equivalent of the Holy Bible in the classical Greek lore. That is the national epic of the Greek people, just as the Hebrew scriptures are the national epic of the Jewish people. Yeah, either could get me crucified, but they have to catch me first, and I can be a fast runner to avoid crucifixion. But I guess the point is that I think these have a basis in fact, and whether these are, quote, space gods, or whether they come from other universes altogether where space and time may be totally irrelevant, that I get from the physicists. I used to be able to pronounce that, but I was younger then. Oh, can I tell one story of my initial contact with?
Quick one. Then we have to get the contact information in closing.
It's not a contact thing at all. It's that the first time I was in Greece was in 1963. I was 16. You can count if you want to. I'm 160 and pushing 161. But anyway, so we docked at Piraeus, which is the port of Athens. And of course, being a fan of the literature, Edith Hamilton, and who was the guy who wrote the popular Bullfinch? Yes. I wanted to go to the Acropolis, which was sort of a problem as there was political unrest in 1963 in Greece, which led to things after I had safely left. Anyway, so I went to the Acropolis with a couple of, I can't say this anymore, can I? Old geezers who had taken ship with me. And we got to the steps to the Acropolis, and they couldn't climb it. And I thought, I'm glad I'm doing this when I'm young, because it's a sad thing. They've come halfway around the world to see this, and they can't climb the steps. So I hopped 2 steps at a time, feeling my oats. And, I viewed all of the things to view. And right in the front, I understand they're doing some restoration work on it now, but it was, I think it had, correct me if I'm wrong, Hercules, but I think it had survived pretty much intact, the Parthenon, up until it was used as a powder, during the Greek War of Independence. And depending on who you say, either the Greek insurgents or the Ottoman Empire blew it up. So what you see now is not what you saw in antiquity and was marveled as one of the wonders of the world. But there's enough of it left that you can go in it. So I decided, okay, I've been to Rome. I will be going to Jerusalem. The great pillars of Western civilization are Rome, Athens, and Jerusalem. I'm going to enter through the entrance and go to where once the statue of Athena stood. It's known from antiquity because it was painted, sketched, described over and over before it disappeared from history. And I found the spot where the statue of the over life-size statue of Athena was. And I sat down on it, and I had, I wouldn't call it a religious experience, but let's say an epiphany. I got it. I got what these, coming from Judaism, statuary is frowned on in all branches of Judaism, even the liberal branches. But I got what building a statue of the god or goddess did for people who did not have that particular prohibition, and what the entire Greek culture meant to the Athenians, and for that matter, to the Spartans and to everybody else in Greek and Macedonian culture. And that was a very long time ago, 70 years? Something close to 70 years ago. I still have that as a major event of my life. Then I went back to being a regular tourist.
I'm glad you had an epiphany and that you shared it with us today. We're approaching the end of our conversation, and as you go around and let people know how to contact you, please also let us know if you have a particular brand or type of spirituality, like for instance, mine would be Olympian and Theosophical primarily. Setna of Khemet is Egyptian. So if you have a particular pantheon type or cultural type of spirituality, one of our folks, Michael Delrusi, his is American New Thought. But if you have any base philosophy or spirituality, please share that because we'll integrate it into the journey that we're going to start soon. So we'll go to Michael Koff again. Are you still with us, sir? I guess we lost Michael Koff. Okay. Sue.
People, did you want me to talk where people can find me and my spiritual level? My spiritual level is actually just as spiritual. It's all things that has to do with when I can connect with the universe and the earth, and then connect with people. That's where my religion lies. I'm not at any specific religion title, as to put it, or locked in a category.
That's perfect, by the way, because we're going to go there too. We're going to stay there more than anywhere else. How can people get in contact with you, Sue?
I am on Facebook. I am on Twitter, and the best thing to do is to message me on Messenger if you'd like to make an appointment. I'm a meditation specialist. I help people work on their shadows and their past so that they can move forward in life. I am also on Instagram, and they can contact me in any of the chat rooms in those platforms as well. And if you want to email me, I'm at SueLightworker@gmail.com.
Thank you. And Sue is on her way to getting her own show in the very near future. So this is part of a journey, and I'm looking forward to it a lot. And Sue participates in a lot of our panels. And this week, I believe we have a few more. We have the Star Trek one. We have Paul's other one. So we have a bunch of opportunities to talk.
Oh, yeah. Favorite topic.
Okay. Setna of Khemet.
Hi. Well, you can reach me at Michael K. Waterman on Facebook, or Phone a Wizard, as I am the wizard of Phone a Wizard. You can get me at Setna _ Kamwaset on TikTok. You can reach me at Michael K. At todayswitch.net. Actually, because I write for them. Or you can call me, 516-650-3691. I'll give you information about the Pernateru Temple and our classes that we are forming for the next couple of months. Thank you. And I hope I'll hear from all of you soon.
And I'm sure we will. And thank you for all that you contribute. Setna, of course, has Setna Speaks, which is his show the first Thursday of each month. He participates on a lot of our panels, and I've shared some of the plans ahead with him, and he's going to be part of that, for which I'm very grateful. So thank you again, Setna.
It's always a blessing to work with you and all of you. I feel very close to all of you, so thank you all.
Paul, how can people get in contact with you, and what can we look forward with you?
Very easy. You can Google or Bing me, Paul Dale Roberts, and you'll find a bunch of my articles pop up. Or Paul Dale Roberts books, and you'll see all my books. And today was a fascinating show, especially when we were talking about the mountains and all the secrets of these mountains. There's more secrets on those mountains than the secrets of the real Black Lodge or secret cipher of the Euphanots. And I think Ellen knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And I just got done reviewing a book. It's called Richard Estep. You can probably see it on the internet. It's a good book and it has a lot of stories about ghosts.
Very good. And what is your base of spiritual stance? I know you're a demon hunter.
Yes, I'm a former paranormal investigator. So I got burned out on it after 2,500 investigations. I was born and raised a Roman Catholic. I don't go to church a lot or whatever, but I'm very successful in doing Roman Catholic house blessings, and I do full submersion baptisms if you have a demonic attachment. And I've been very successful with that.
Very good. So we'll say Roman Catholic generally,
Yeah.
but you've outgrown the.
If I can get out of bed and go to church.
There we go. Last but not least, we have Alan. Alan, how can people get in contact with you and anything new and exciting coming in the days ahead?
Let me tell you how not to get in contact with me first. Don't use Messenger. I have a Messenger account, but I never go there, or almost never. And when I do, there are messages from, 1994 or whatever. It's just, it doesn't seem private enough, so I don't use that. You can find me pretty much every day on Facebook, Tumblr, X, although Mr. Musk apparently gave me a new account, so I don't know what the people at my old account think. They probably think I have been abducted by aliens, and they may be right. And WhatsApp, and what is that other? I repost the same things everywhere. Interesting stuff. I also read everything that comes in and try to be responsive if a response is called for. And you can just Google my name. It's ALLENGREENFIELD, or some variant thereof. T. Allen Greenfield is often brings up interesting stuff. Some of it highly critical, and some of it very nice. And while I don't have a podcast of my own, as I answer questions a lot better than I pose them, it's just the way I am. If I had my own podcast, I'd go, today's topic is embroidery, and, whatever. And finally, my current book is Flying Saucers and the Occult, which is kind of a collection of everything, so each essay in it, it's an anthology, is on a different topic, which are strung together by the title of the book. And all of my books that are in print, which is almost all of them, can be found on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and as I like to say, I'm sure you get tired of hearing it, wherever fine books are sold.
And I'm going to advertise your first show something to do with embroidery.
Oh, please.
Alan,
Okay.
On embroidery. I'm going to share a little something because it fits into the path we're taking. Number one, a lot of my stuff that I've written or filmed or whatever, including a movie, has been lost in the ravages of time. It seems that the universe doesn't want much that I do concretely to survive for some reason. But some of it still exists, and there are fragments of my old TV show still on YouTube. So if you type in Flora the Barbarian and type in what is the name of the guy who did the Jason and the Argonauts animation?
Ray Harryhausen.
Hey, Harryhausen. I met Harryhausen. We recorded that, and that survived. So if you're going to see me in Barbarian Regalia speaking to Ray Harryhausen, that's still there on YouTube last time I checked. And
Wow.
so I start Argonaut voyages based on those movies. And I did it in New York City, my first really big one. We had a comic strip. We had parts of my shows were dedicated to the Age of Heroes. Like this is going to be part of the Age of Heroes, what we're doing here now. And we were fighting Ganigakap, the gaping void in Norse mythology, which is what we were calling the digital divide, which was a reality back then. And we eventually opened up a drop-in computer learning center in Brooklyn where people can go for free if they didn't have computers and learn how to set up emails and how to navigate the web and stuff like that. And Bill Gates solved the problem by giving libraries computers, and we didn't have to do that anymore. For a while, we had a great adventure when we were addressing a big social problem and we found a solution. And that's aspects that still survive hither and yon, so you might find them. But I'm doing an Age of Heroes now with Optimal Wellness. So if anybody wants to join us on this Argonaut adventure, just let me know. I'll include you. That has its own shows that have been there for years and now being repurposed. And also, I'm going to launch officially in my town's community night, where I'll have a table and I'll be giving out free books, free exercise equipment, and all sorts of other stuff that pertains to health. And since I have Parkinson's and I joined the Fuck Parkinson's organization and also the Parkinson's Disease Avengers, because I'm a comic book fan like Paul is, I'll be having literature from them as well. So an adventure waits. If you resonate, talk to me and you're welcome to be part of it. And I want to thank you all. My life is blessed by talking to all of you and getting to know all of you. I wish you success in all your endeavors, the ones we do together and the ones we do separately. And I'm looking forward to our next conversation, which some of you is within the next week. So be well, everybody. Take care. Enjoy this journey. It's an amazing adventure. Cool.
Blessings to all.
Heal.